Welcome to episode 38 of Behind the Shield. Today we are joined by sophomore men's swimmer Charlie Green. Hello again, everybody. Scott Geis joining you for another episode of Behind the Shield. Today we check in with Charlie, who is maybe one of the most involved student athletes on this York College campus, as he is a member of the student government, a member of the swim team, and a SAAC representative. So after this commercial break, we'll check in with Charlie Green.
You've probably heard a lot about changes on campus, about how classes will look a little different, or how the dining hall won't be set up like it was last year. You may have heard we'll be living with a new normal. But the truth is, at York College of Pennsylvania, normal has never been our thing. If by normal you mean predictable, usual, commonplace, average, that's not us. Our normal is extraordinary, exceptional, remarkable. Our normal is about taking responsibility, thinking of others, and treating people with respect. Here, normal means being compassionate. It means protecting the person next to us to ensure safety and good health for all of us, because we know we're in this together. For us, wearing masks and social distancing aren't really a new normal. They're just another example of what's always been important to us. Joining efforts to find real solutions to achieve our goals, to help our community thrive, and to show that we care. That's not a new normal. That's our normal, and we are grateful that you're a part of it. Welcome home, Spartans.
Welcome to episode 38 of Behind the Shield. We are joined today by men's swimmer Charlie Green. Charlie, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Scott. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So let's talk a little bit, first of all, about the new normal. You've been back at school for about a month and a half. How has the new normal been for you and for your teammates, and what's it been like on campus?
So the new normal for me, it really has been adjusting. I feel like when I'm like in my dorm room, it's like my friends and my roommate, it almost feels like I'm not in a new normal, especially as well as especially when I'm in class and I'm learning, it feels like, oh, it's just like a normal semester. But especially when like you take that first step outside and you got your mask on, you're like, oh, so this is how we're living right now. But I'm happy to have a new normal on campus versus a new normal from learning from at home. So I got to say that's probably the best part. Especially with swimming wise, it's been a little hard. It's been in the spring to typically do the rehiring of lifeguards. So we're actually a little bit understaffed, so we haven't been able to get a lot of full time as well. Especially since right before classes started, a lot of professors realized that they need to stay online, so a few classes got cut. So everybody's schedule changed at the last minute. So it's been kind of hard to train all together. But when we are in the pool, it's really nice to be able to train as a team. It's sad to split up as men's and women's, but like it's better to still be able to compete and train against somebody versus just training on your own. I feel like you're allowed to push yourself that much more. So I'm happy that we're able to be on campus and practicing as our new normal, and our new normal isn't at home doing everything on your own. So
How difficult was it last summer, or last spring? You guys had just finished your season, finished the CAC championships, and then all of a sudden you're going home. How challenging was that? And especially as a freshman, you have a semester and a half under your belt, and then all of a sudden you have to learn a whole new way.
it was definitely a culture shock. Being on campus, especially being a swimmer, it was nice having like that routine, like getting up, going to practice, going to class, coming back, hitting the weight room, expecting like getting back in the pool for the second time, and then going home and having that like structure just broken down and taken away from you. That was definitely a shock. Some classes didn't even meet in person, so it was like you kind of had to do work on your own. And I think everybody has a little bit of procrastinator in them, so that was definitely a challenge. I was very thankful that we were able to get our season finished before everything happened. I would say I'm a little bit on the lucky side. I was able to get a full freshman year, but especially even like maintaining working out. No pools were open, so I mean I couldn't even hit the water. I know a lot of other people felt the same way. Sadly, the gyms weren't open, so I think the hardest part was like finding ways to stay in shape. I mean, what I did is I took up running, made it my goal to be able to run a half marathon by by May when York would have had theirs. But I definitely know it can attest for a couple of my teammates as well that staying in shape was a real struggle.
Now that we're back and you talked about being in practice, how important is it as swimmers to have that togetherness and that culture? It seems like you have, as a team, you guys are always together and always doing things together. How important is it then to be able to do that and be back together, even as strange as it is now?
So some people consider swimming as an individual sport, and some people might say that. When it gets to swimming, it's like all about your individual time, but that team aspect is really important. A practice I do on my own isn't going to help me as much as a practice I do with other people, because just having a person laying next to you is going to push you that much harder every time at practice. So just being able to have that dynamic is just huge, because I feel that like the whole team together, it has growth versus just swimming on your own. And I think that's just a great thing being back. You're able to be competitive. Everybody's swimming together, which is just a great thing. Um, but yeah, I mean it's a huge part of the dynamic. People say it's like, swimming, you do it by your own. I mean, just swimming, it's more about your individual time. But I was like something that's like a huge team aspect, especially going to the MAC this year, where I think we have a good shot of competing against the teams and finishing pretty high up, fostering that team growth very early on, while a lot of other schools aren't even swimming or practicing. It's just huge positive to us.
One thing about swimming that I think is it's if you haven't done it, it's hard to understand. And I'll be the first one to say I didn't do it, so it's always tough for me to understand. But you guys are in the water so much, early in the mornings, afternoon practices, all those things that you're doing. You talked about it. You need that group effort because you might be the only one in the pool swimming for you, but when you have people that are going through the same thing you're going through, I have to think that's pretty important to have as an individual and as a team.
For sure. I know when I swim my own, it feels like it's mind numbing. It takes forever. Like swimming by myself for 1 hour, it takes longer than swimming with the team for about two, because you just have that camaraderie where it's like you're competing against the person next to you. Little things of once you touch the wall before your next exercise or your next set, there's little jokes that you might share with your teammates with the jab. Who are like, oh, I'm going to get you next time. It's just a huge part that like it doesn't feel like a practice anymore. I mean, it still hurts some laps, not going to lie, but it's just a reason to be there. As well as I know everybody's working to get better and move towards a common goal of finishing as best we can.
So you talked about earlier, we're going to go to the MAC, and when we talked to Coach yesterday, we talked about how different the MAC championship's going to be versus what the CAC was. How exciting is it knowing you're going to be going to this meet that has double-digit teams, and it's just going to be so much bigger and so much more like a championship? How excited are you for that?
When I heard we were going to the MAC, I was very excited. A lot of my friends who I swam with in high school are part of MAC teams. I'm from Bucks County area, so I have a few friends who go to like Widener and Arcadia, and they say that the MAC championships is just it's competitive. Nothing against the CAC, but I mean, I know it was like a one dominant team, and then you're still racing your fastest, but it was almost hard because you're fighting for second place. But it was exciting now to know that like it seems like anybody can take it. There is more spots in the final. About the CACs is that only the top 16 made it. Now it's the top 24. So there's more of a chance for you to score points that are meaningful to the team. It's right in our home court in the Graham Aquatic Center right up the street. So it's kind of nice. I feel like you got that home field advantage of York. Should be exciting as well. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that you'll have more competition, especially more background. Everything's been fluctuating. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Does it also give a little bit more meaning to the depth of the team? Because you talked about being able to score more points 1 through 24. Does that put an emphasis on maybe some people lower in the lineup to be able to pick it up and to provide some team points?
Oh, for sure. Because I feel like that you're always in a race. There's always someone to beat next to you, especially with having that third final heat. I mean, that's more people that are your speed. So even if you are getting a certain place overall, you still want to win that heat. And it feels like you have someone closer to you. You're able to just have that little extra in you when you're racing to out touch them. I mean, I always like to think of myself as one of the role players where I might not be getting those first and seconds, but fifth and fourth are just as important as well, because you just got to out touch the guy next to you. because 1 point's better than no points, and then a 1 point race is a 2 point swing, taking one away from them. So I think more people, even depth-wise, it's important just to have them spread across the board, because now you can get points all over the place that you might have not been able to get before.
So we talked earlier before we started recording. You're a sophomore, but you've become very involved on campus. One of the things you we'll start with is SAAC, the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. How important is it to you to represent your fellow student athletes and to be a part of a body that is helping enact some change and doing a lot of positive things for Spartan student athletes?
It's really important to me. I think a lot of what SAAC does is so good and positive to the community. Especially, I know this semester we're focusing on really important aspects, I think, of the world, between having students to register to vote. And I think it's really important to get everybody to do their civic duty, really focusing on the mental health of the athletes, trying to break the stigma that talking about mental health is a bad thing. And I think as a fellow athlete, coming together with other athletes, talking about it, it allows people that maybe are nervous to step forward and talk about it to maybe break down those barriers and come out and share their experiences. And then I think the last one is just being a part of SAAC and the community service. That it's important to show that athletes are just more than athletes on the field. We're willing to give back to the community and build skills that we'll be able to take into life with us after sports. So I think it's a great being a part of the body of athletes that are able to kind of show campus as well as the community that athletes are more than just their sport.
You talk about an important topic in mental health, and I think that's an area where SAAC and the MAC has done a really good job of trying to turn the conversation towards. Are those conversations tough when you're meeting with SAAC and bringing that up? Because that's kind of, even now, is still a tough subject. Is it something that you feel better as a group being able to bring forward to other student athletes?
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the great things about SAAC is that everybody on it is like outgoing and readily able to share their experiences. So you have a bunch of these people that are ready to hit the ground running about anything, coming together, sharing their own personal experiences. It just makes it that much easier to get things planned and get it out to the rest of the student athletes.
Another thing about SAAC is you are probably getting to have conversations with people that you may not have other student athletes who you might really not get a chance to talk to otherwise. How neat is it to kind of get, people from different sports to be able to sit in a room and talk about things that are important to being a Spartan student athlete?
Oh, I think it's really important. It's, again, like, you can't read people's minds. You don't understand what a practice for a wrestling person, someone on a wrestling team, someone on the wrestling team versus someone on the soccer team or someone on the lacrosse team. Each have their own different experiences and struggles and things they deal with. And even as a sophomore, I really haven't got to be on SAAC in like a normal year, but their big thing is getting different sports teams to go and support each other. Like if we have a home basketball game, trying to get the swim team, the field hockey team, the baseball team to come out and support them. So I think it's a wonderful thing because you're bringing someone from a background into a room with people from all different kinds of backgrounds, and then you're bringing tons of different ideas together that you're just mixing and sharing, and then you're changing everybody's different minds. So I'm excited for when this whole coronavirus thing dies over and we can finally go back to normal, to really be at the forefront of that, trying to make it more of a York College sports department versus just individual sports teams.
I too am looking forward to when we are through this COVID thing. I'm ready for you guys to compete again. You also are a member, in addition to SAAC, in addition to swimming, you're a member of the York College Student Government. Talk a little bit about that position. I think it's really intriguing. As a sophomore, you've already kind of embedded yourself into being able to do this and being very active in our campus. Talk a little bit about your position with that as well.
So my freshman year, I knew I wanted to be involved in campus as much as possible. So I saw that York had student government organization and student senate, and I was like, I'm going to apply for that. Ran the election, won a freshman senator's seat, and I haven't turned back since. At the end of my freshman year, e-board position opened up as the vice president of organizational development, and I ran and I was able to win, which is very exciting. That position in the Senate, called the VPOD for short, basically oversees all the clubs and organizations on campus. I make sure that they meet the requirements to be able to keep that status here on campus. if anybody wants to start a club, so say you have an idea, for example, like you really like playing spike ball, and you have a bunch of friends that want to start a spike ball club, you come to me, we can make that happen on campus. As well as I try to foster growth, kind of similar how SAAC tries to foster growth between different sports teams. I try to foster that growth between the different organizations on campus. So it's something near and dear to me. I really like being able to give back to the campus as well as being that student voice that maybe other students might not have, to show maybe what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed on campus as well. I know something exciting that Student Senate is working on, where that I'm trying to push, is kind of like a York Unified kind of thing, trying to bring the York College campus together during this new normal time. But yeah, I absolutely love it.
How do you see that playing out as you move into your professional life? Is it something that, did you think of that in mind when you applied, or did you just want to be involved on campus in general?
Man, I really just want to be involved when I first applied, but some of the things that come from the position, I know sending out the tons of emails to different people has already come in handy. I know applying for interviews and stuff. I just had an interview last week, and they were like, "Oh, I can't believe how professional and formal you were," and I was like, comes from experience that I wasn't really expecting. It's teaching me how to present. I remember I had to give a presentation on the club presidents and treasurers. And that was a little awkward because it was a Zoom seminar and I couldn't see anybody. I basically felt like I was talking to myself, but it's just these life skills that I'm going to take with me as I go professionally. I mean, again, just having the public speaking and face-to-face was able to help me in my interview just the past week. So I really haven't taken it for granted.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Certainly, it's been great. And fingers crossed that we're going to get to see you guys in the pool here in a couple months, hopefully, January 2021, hopefully. But thank you for taking the time to join us today.
No, thank you again for having me.
All right. Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
We want to thank Charlie for taking time to speak with us. Certainly great to get to find out more about what he does on campus. It's awesome to see how involved he truly is. A fine example of what a Spartan student athlete is. We'll be back next week with a fresh episode. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Spartans.